How's it going, everybody? My name is Absalom and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be going over my team's strategy to win Warzone as easy as possible, as well as a few helpful tips. Now, before I get into this strategy, I want to be crystal clear and say that nobody, absolutely nobody, can guarantee a win in this mode, because unlike Plunder, you're actually going to have to take your gun off safety and actually use it, so I would be ridiculous and lying to you if I told you that you could win every single game. But don't get discouraged and click away, because my team and I have been working really hard to put a very easy and effective strategy that, if carried out, will get you to the final circle with everything you need to win. I'll be going over how to approach the final circle and have the best chance at winning each game. So let's get into the strategy for Warzone by starting with the loadout that my team likes to use. Now, before I say anything, I know there's going to be people out there that argue over which gun to use or if they should use the overkill strategy, but look, after playing this game and using this strategy, I think that this loadout is the best for what my team does. Now, if you flat out disagree, then by all means, use whichever gun makes you happy. Alright, so to start with the primary gun, I recommend using the M4A1 with these specific attachments.
They better be good. They are.
So for the muzzle, you should have the monolithic suppressor, you should have the M16 grenadier barrel, for the optic have the thermal hybrid scope, you should have the 60 round mag for the ammunition, and for your perk you should have fully loaded. Oh, and don't forget to equip your coolest stickers and weapon charms, because I'm pretty sure the gun just doesn't work without them. So my team and I have been tweaking these attachments all throughout the testing that went in to make this video. However, we found that these specific ones complement our strategy the best. If you don't have any of these attachments, then you can level up your gun very quickly in Plunder if you just focus on completing contracts. Moving on, let's talk about the secondary weapon. And to answer your next question, yes, I am going to recommend that you use the RPG.
Bloody chaos. Tell me something I don't know.
Okay, alright, hold on. I can feel you guys judging me from the other side of the screen. So let me back up and explain something before you jump to any conclusions. So I personally wish the RPG was completely out of the game, or at least it did as much damage as that Nerf gun I had when I was 7. But unfortunately it doesn't. So after getting blown up too many times by the guy that aimed at my side of the map, I realized that my video and strategy would be lacking if I didn't advise you to equip the RPG in order to win the game.
Let's get evil.
Unfortunately, if you want to have a chance in some of the final circles, then you're going to have to stoop to that level until the RPG is actually fixed. Now, if you're sitting here wondering, what is this guy talking about? Then here's a little clip to show you just how ridiculous this gun actually is. Alright, so I think you guys get the point. But in case you just despise the RPG and you never want to use it, then the other recommendation I have is the 357 Magnum. Because once you unlock the akimbo feature, you can run around the map very quickly with it, and it's also very deadly. Okay, so for your perks, you should equip Cold-Blooded, Ghost, and Shrapnel. This is going to keep you off the radar and from being spotted with thermal scopes, which is extremely useful in Warzone, and it's also going to give you an extra piece of lethal equipment. And speaking of equipment, you should have these smoke grenades for your tactical, and then for your lethal, you should have the proximity mines. So we found that placing these proximity mines inside of windows or on top of buy stations will get you a lot more kills, which will make getting the 2 lethal kills you need to unlock the Season 3 Lone Star Operator very easy in case you don't own multiplayer. Okay, so now that I've covered our loadout, let's get into the actual strategy. So I'm sure you guys are familiar with the recon strat that lets you know where the final circle is after completing 6 contracts. That's become pretty popular in the last few weeks. But my team has taken this and improved on it and figured out exactly how to play this. So with several Season 3 changes, we wanted to figure out the rhythm between looting and completing everything as smoothly as possible. So to start the game, you want to analyze the flight path and pick 1 to 2 recon contracts that are on the outskirts of the map. Ideally, you want ones that are on the late drops, outside circles, and in unnamed locations. Once they're marked, you can look for a helicopter for one of the teammates to land on. Just so you know, the helicopter will put you on the radar and can potentially get you killed, but it's very effective when it's used to help complete contracts. So let's go over the drop. Depending on what mode you're in, you can approach this a little bit differently. With 4 players, you want 1 player to drop on a helicopter, 2 to go for the contracts, and 1 to stay in the air in order to land on the secure flag. While capturing, the person flying the helicopter will pick up the team and then converge on the secure, leaving the 1 player on the second recon to activate once the first contract completes. Then all players will meet on the second secure. Now your team has completed 2 recon contracts and you should all be in the helicopter or grouped up on foot. So while the pilot's taking off or you're figuring out where to go, have another player mark a recon contract in a similar outskirts area. To be the most efficient, have 1 player drop on top of the contract, then have the other 2 players dropped off on the secure flag, which will allow the pilot to circle back and pick up the first player. After that, have everybody converge back on the secure flag to keep proceeding. So now your team should have 3 recons done and have a good bit of money. So now have a player mark a buy station on the outskirts of the map in order to start phase 1 of buying stuff in order to get set up for the game. For this, you need to put your coupon book away because it's time to make it rain. Your team needs to share cash in order to buy a loadout drop, and with the remaining cash, you're going to buy a UAV and armor plates for that player that you know is going to go down. Find somewhere safe to call in that loadout drop and plate up, because now, my friends, comes the hard part. And of course, what I mean by this is that you need to say your parting goodbyes to that death trap you flew around in and proceed on foot. This is where things are going to get interesting and unpredictable, which is why you got that UAV. So your team now needs to look for recon number 4, and ideally it'll be on the outskirts, but you might need to push center map just slightly. If you run into an area that's hot, then don't forget that you have your UAV. You want to try your best to stay grouped up and sneak around other teams, because the game can fall apart very quickly if your team isn't careful. But, of course, this isn't a perfect world, so there's going to be situations where you have to fight. This is where your loadout is going to give you a significant advantage. You have your smoke grenades you can throw at the people's feet, and then use your thermal scope to see right through the smoke. On top of that, your RPG can take out group players or be shot into windows to take out those pesky campers. Your team needs to try to secure recons 4, 5, and 6 on foot and as quickly as possible. And I'm sure at this point some people are disagreeing with this approach. You might be wanting to play more aggressive or keep the helicopter, or maybe you think recons are a complete waste of time. However you're feeling, it's okay if that's what you enjoy. My team has just tried several different approaches to the final circle, and this is the one that works almost every single time. So while you're capturing the last 3 recons, here's some things you should know. Recons are going to spawn all throughout the game, so if you don't see one, just wait. Also, if you capture 5 and you can't get to 6, it's completely okay. Sometimes it's safer to stay put and not risk that 6 contract. 5 is going to give you a really good idea of the final circle anyways, so it's not going to be that big of a deal. Alright, so assuming your team has completed 5 to 6 contracts, you now need to push a buy station. This is where you're going to get set up for the final circle. More so than the first time, you need to be very quick and efficient when buying everything you need. Each player needs to buy a gas mask, a self-revive, and a score streak. Our team likes to usually have 3 UAVs and 1 cluster strike. On top of that, you should have 1 person buy a munitions box. To be efficient, have everyone buy what they can and then drop the rest of their money back and forth until everyone is set up. You should be good on armor, but in case you need it, go ahead and buy another armor bundle. Okay, so let's recap a little bit. Your team has now done 5 to 6 recon contracts and now knows where the final circle is. You each have a score streak, gas mask, your loadout, and a munitions box. And now you are ready to push the final circle. And you need to do this as a team. And this is the part of Warzone that nobody can guarantee a win every single time. But don't lose faith, because you've been preparing this whole game for this moment. You're basically the COD version of the guy at the end of an 80s montage. Alright, so hopefully that was the motivation needed in order to get this done. Now, to break the final circle strategy down to its raw form, you should always have the high ground. Now you're probably thinking, yes, now tell me something I don't know. But I need to say this because it's so very important if you want to win more games. So I've worked hard with my team to test different strategies in every single area and every possible circle to be able to test this video. The circle can go to so many different areas, and until my team narrows down the exact amount of variations, I'm only going to be covering the different types of finales. Your circle could be on a mountain or hillside, a house, a downtown area, or even an open field. So let's start with the first variation, which is a pretty common one for me, which is a mountainside victory. So to start this one, you want to finish all your contracts and then push to the top of the circle. Once you're at the top of the mountain, then you want to go and place as many bouncing betties as a team all over the area. Once the hillside looks like a minefield, then push back up to the top and drop a munitions box. This is going to give your team 28 RPG rockets as well as a fresh supply of equipment. So now your team is ready to start playing offense. So as players push up the mountain, you want to use your UAVs consistently and also use your cluster strikes. Don't forget to use your smoke grenades and your thermal scope, as well as spamming all of your RPGs. You have a significant advantage with this loadout, so don't be afraid to use it. With this final circle, your team is playing King of the Hill, except in this version there's no propane. So your team is going to want to ping other players and use callouts as players push up the mountain. If you use all of this to your advantage, you are going to have a significant chance at winning the game. Moving on, the next kind of final circle would be the ones that end in houses. This would be like the hills or the farmland areas. So you can play this one of 2 ways. If nobody's in the final house, then you should most definitely rush the house and secure the top floor. Again, placing bouncing betties, putting them on the insides of the windows. Your team will then hold the top floor using RPGs to kill approaching teams. And per usual, your M4A1s and smoke grenades are going to help you out a lot in this as well. Now let's go over the other option. This is if you don't want to play inside the house, or maybe there's already a team inside. So this is where you're going to play on the outskirts of the circle and then slowly approach the house. So naturally, a lot of teams are going to rush the house and start to fight it out. There might be teams on the outskirts playing the same way you are, so you need to be using your callouts and keep your head on a swivel. Once the teams finish fighting it out in the house, then you can use your RPGs to spam the windows, where you'll most likely either break their armor or end up getting the team wipe. At this point, you're either going to win the game, or you need to rush into the house and secure it in order to fight off the last few teams. So that covers everything for the final house circles for either aggressive or passive players. Alright, now moving on to the next one, which is the inner city circle. This is where there's multiple buildings such as Promenade, Downtown, or the hospital area. For this strategy, our team likes to find the tallest building inside the circle, and then we secure that building. Once it's secure, then we place bouncing betties at all the doors, and at this point you want to avoid the roof until the final circle starts to close. Otherwise, you'll either be sniped or you'll waste several armor plates. Once the circle starts to close, then use your UAV and then hang out on the roof. Your gas mask is going to help you survive while everybody else is battling below. After this, you can parachute down and start battling it out, or you can shoot over the ledge if you see any teams. Remember that you can spam your RPGs over the ledge of the roof. This tactic of raining chaos down from above has worked very well for my team, allowing us to get multiple victories. Now for the last possible option, which is the wide open landscape of a final circle. This one is by far the hardest type of circle to win, so you're going to want to have your UAVs going consistently, and smoke grenades are going to be key. Whenever you see enemies, throw smoke grenades to try to keep the battlefield smoked out at all times. The other major tool you have is the cluster strikes. This might not even be used to kill players, but more so push them out of hiding places. With this type of circle, it's likely that your enemies are holding hands and hiding behind that one rock, so you can throw that cluster strike down, forcing them to run and scatter, where you'll be waiting with a smoke grenade and an M4. Outside of the lack of cover, these circles are difficult because they're very fast paced and they make you play very aggressive. So you might struggle at first, but I promise you, if you keep using the tools I've given you, then these kind of circles are going to get a lot easier. However your final circle appears, if you use all the tools given with this strategy, you're going to have a very good chance at winning. The more you play like this and the more you work as a team, the more wins you'll be able to get. But even with new players, my team has rarely gotten less than 5th place. This strategy is designed to give any player, no matter what skill level, a chance at winning. Because obviously there's people out there that can play very aggressive and still win the game, but there's also people out there that like to play, well, let's say strategic. Camping. So that's why my team worked hard to consider every single style and design a strategy that works for every single player. So that wraps up the strategy for Warzone, but now I want to cover some very helpful tips that sometimes almost maybe could be kind of a way to help you no matter who you are. So first up on the list, I want to go over a really easy way to spawn your whole team back in. So we've all been in that situation where we're the last person alive and we barely have enough money for an armor bundle, let alone resurrecting the dead. So to keep your team from getting too anxious, here's a strategy to build more money. So start a search contract up and collect 2 out of the 3 crates. At this point, you most likely have enough money to buy back at least one of your teammates, but if not, loot up some caches and collect the 4,500. Once you buy your teammate back, now you can go ahead and finish the contract, and now both teammates will collect the money for the contract completion instead of just one. Now all you have to do is just rinse and repeat until your whole squad is back. So my next tip is pretty simple, but I did want to mention it, because so many times I forget to mark multiple contracts ahead of time, and then once I start one, they no longer show up on the map. So just so you know, in case you happen to be in a helicopter or running around on foot while one of your teammates is capturing, you can actually use the mini-map to find the hidden contracts. This is really only applicable if you're in Plunder or if you're really trying to be efficient on Warzone. However, I put this into this video because it could help you out with your 6 contracts you have to get done very quickly. So this tip I'm only putting in because I've had multiple people tell me you can't drop guns to other players, and sure, they're right, but you can pick up a new gun and the other player can grab your old one. So if you have a brand new player on your team, then you could get a loadout and drop your gun and then get your loadout back again. Alright, so that covers everything for my Warzone strategy, as well as a few helpful tips to help win the game. I want to give a huge thank you to my teammates who helped me get all the footage for this video, as well as put together this strategy. I know I couldn't do this without you guys, so thank you guys so much to Captain Disastered, Juan Blonde, Skull Kid, and Main Elephant. If you have any questions about Warzone, then feel free to comment and I'll do my best to respond. If you want to know how to win Plunder, then you can go check out my other guide that goes with this one. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for the incredible amount of support that you guys have shown on that video. It's the first video I've ever had to break 100,000 views, and it's still going. Not to mention, I've got several more videos lined up that I think will get the player base pretty excited. Everything you need will be in the description below, and with that, I want to say thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Absalom, and I hope to see you in my next video.